That Great Business Show, Ireland's best business podcast.
ThatGreatBusinessShow.com is brought to you by De Facto Shaving Oil, the best anyone can get. Made in Ireland, sold worldwide.
Welcome to episode 96 of That Great Business Show, posting on the 15th of July 2022. Fáilteasteach, I am Conal O'Moran. A very busy episode for you today. We'll be travelling to the US, New Zealand, Cork and Louth, all in the name of giving you the best business tips and insights available. And amongst the items on this episode, we'll be giving you the only phone number you will need if you plan on launching your business into the US. Stay tuned, as they say. You'll find something useful for your business on every episode of That Great Business Show, so do listen back. There's a library of 95 others sitting, waiting to be listened to. All of these great insights are brought to you thanks to De Facto Shaving Oil, the world's best shaving oil. Not a beard oil, it's a shaving oil made in Mayo, sold worldwide.
De Facto Shaving Oil, smooth as.
So let us start immediately with a dating app for businesses. Kwayga, Kwayga, is a B2B matching platform for buyers and suppliers in the food sector. Using the platform, buyers and suppliers can discover, verify, which is very important, match, connect, communicate in any language because they supply a translation service, and then they can do business together. The founders like to call their platform a 24/7 trade show. One of the founders is Mike McGrath, who has very kindly travelled from his Cork HQ just now to join us on That Great Business Show. Welcome to Team GBS, Mike.
Thank you, Conal. It's great to be here.
And thank you so much. You hopped on the train up.
Yeah, great service.
You told me that recently you're on the train and it took almost 4 hours. So that is not a great service.
Thankfully, that was on the weekend, so there was no rush.
This is a very curious company, Kwayga. Where did you come up with the idea?
I suppose I've worked in sourcing and procurement for over 10 years, and a lot of the problems that we've been facing in recent years, particularly with Brexit, is what we're now addressing head on at Kwayga. It's a platform business where businesses can self-serve and connect with many supply chain partners, which is the work that we would have done manually. So effectively, we're digitizing the service, and it's probably a smarter use of technology than us doing it manually as we did in the past.
Now, I have obviously been on your website and I kind of know how it works. Mm-hmm. And one of your big claims is that back in the day, people used to go onto Google and see if you're selling flour, you need to find flour to sell. And you Google flour sellers, flour millers or whatever. But you must be doing the exact same, except that when you find them, they all sit on a kind of a library of suppliers.
Similar, yes. We're using smart technologies like Google do, but we're doing it a different way.
Such as?
If we were using machine learning and artificial intelligence to build up a large database, to build up and scrape data. We've suppliers categorized across Europe. We've over 50,000 suppliers on our network who are available to us. And if you're looking for flour suppliers, which a lot of people are at the moment, unfortunately, due to the difficulties in Ukraine, if you go to Google, you'll get some poor results. You'll get lots of issues around flour, just flour ingredients, flour recipes. It'll be very difficult to actually find flour suppliers. So that's where we come in.
If I put in flour supplier, does it not just pop up a load of flour suppliers, no?
It doesn't actually. You'd be surprised. Google is built for the consumer in mind, and it's not built for business to business, whereas that's the approach we take. And we have very strong database at this stage, categorized by location, by flour type, by size of company, and all the international certifications that you need.
That is a lot of work.
Yes.
How much work have you been putting into this?
Like I said, it's been 10 years in the making in one sense, but more recently, we've actually put together a very strong team. We've very clever technology, and we're expediting it. I started out with an online platform 10 years ago as well called Supply.ie, and that was a lot of work, but the technology has moved on now. We've achieved a database, like I said, of over 50,000 suppliers in 12 months, whereas that would have taken us 10 years in the past.
And you are into 47 countries?
Yeah, nearing 50 countries at this stage, so we've members primarily in Europe, but we're actually expanding globally now at this stage. We have, like I said to you earlier as well, we've got good interest from the States, from the US. So we've had customers there who are looking for European producers, and we can put them in contact. We've had requests from Chile, Canada as well. So an online business 24/7, there's no limitations.
And the verification, that's really important. How do you verify that Connell's flour, that he actually delivers flour?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's very important in the food sector and in every sector, really. My co-founder, Martin, is an ex-banker. And so in terms of due diligence and assessing companies and knowing your business and a KYC aspect in terms of the data, the location, the directors, the financials, the creditworthiness, testifying that the certificates and the product, etc. We're gathering all that information. We've over 10 data points, and we verify that for our premium members. We make sure that buyers and suppliers are dealing with trusted partners, and that's very important.
And I'll get on to the premium thing in a second, but physically, or even using AI and every other piece of technology that you have, 50,000 suppliers, you cannot realistically verify each one of them, can you?
With technology, you can. It happens in seconds. It's a couple of clicks. Thankfully, it's all automated at this stage. It has taken a while to design it that way and making sure you have the right information. And then you have to maintain it as well, so as information changes and companies change. So there's an ongoing maintenance piece. But in terms of what our customers are looking for, they're looking for trusted partners. So that's what we're delivering. And
what you're looking for is paying customers. How much does it cost? And you can dip your toe in for free as well.
Absolutely, and it's not even you can be free forever for a relatively small company. We're interested in companies that want to transact. We have a basic model which you can join for free. You can connect with businesses. You can post one deal or express interest in one deal per month on a monthly basis. However, like you said, we're looking for paying customers, and it is subscription based. It's €75 per month. As for a smaller business, they can add on to that multiple teams. We have enterprises as big as Aramark who have multiple buyers in different locations, and there's a different package for that. It's customized from there.
That's a big name, Aramark. Who else have you got?
We have 4 of the top 5 supermarkets in Ireland. There's one that are waiting in the wings.
Name them. Come on, name and shame them. Who is not playing a ball with Kwayga?
They're all interested actually at this stage, so it'll be 5 out of 5 soon.
But good answer. I'm not sure you're telling the truth though.
we have many UK supermarkets as well, and many French buyers in France and Germany. What we also have is a lot of importers and distributors. So importers in Malta, Cyprus, the Nordics, looking for produce from different parts of Europe. Over the last couple of years, they haven't had opportunities to go to trade shows. They haven't had opportunities to do supplier visits due to COVID, etc. So now with online business, they can connect and they can come through Kwayga, and we can put them in touch with trusted, verified supply chain partners.
And the reason that Kwayga is called Kwayga is because...
Kwayga is the Irish word for 50. Mm-hmm. It's phonetically sounds the same, spelled slightly differently.
It kills me for Kwayga. It should be Kwayga, but that's only a different thing. But there's a good reason for calling it Kwayga.
Certainly, there's 50 million companies in the world that should be trading across borders.
It's that are not 50 million.
That are not trading across borders. So that's what we're addressing. We're helping companies internationalize and trade across borders.
Where did you find that number?
It was through our own research and the World Bank and looking at information from the European Commission. Interestingly, from the European Union, the level of inter-country trade is much lower than interstate trade in the US. And one of the big barriers there is languages. So that's one area we focused on heavily. And my co-founder, Martin, has an interest in a translation and interpretation business as well. So that's how we came together initially and looking at how translation, interpretation, supply chain issues could be addressed.
So Michelle in France wants to do business with Mike in Cork. Mm-hmm. And from what I saw in a little video, there's a little an interpreter who sits between you, is there?
Correct. Firstly, there's a translation. If they're having a chat conversation or just sending an email, we've it all localised. So depending wherever you are, you'll always receive the information locally. And it's great.
Was that needed because to translate out of Cork, was it? To get the accent?
Exactly. So the Cork to Kerry was an issue. So initially starting out. But obviously the further you away from Ireland, the UK, the level of English is less. And there's some fantastic food companies in southern Italy and Greece and Turkey, and the level of English and even their German or Spanish is poor as well. So that's where it came in first. We realised that this is a barrier. So the translation is there, and you can also book an interpreter. Within 24 hours, we'll have a live interpreter on screen supporting the conversation.
And it's very, very progressive. That's really clever. Is that expensive?
It's not as expensive as you think, and this is a service.
Well, I don't know what it was, so let me give me a hint.
That's a political answer. It's probably €50 per hour.
Well, that's not bad.
No, exactly. So
this person, man, woman, sits in the middle and you chat away and she or he gives the interpretation.
Exactly. Now, large businesses have been doing this for years. And now we're making this available to medium, small businesses.
I suppose it never crossed my mind. I was just imagined, I don't know what I imagined because I wasn't thinking about it. So how many companies have you got on board now in total?
We're coming up to about 1,000 companies on the platform at the moment.
Wow.
And
are they all paying?
A lot of them are. No, they're not all paying. A lot of them are on the free basic, as you can imagine, starting out.
Of course.
Our focus is to get to 2,000 members quickly, because that's a tipping point on a platform. That's where you have enough members on the platform to make the platform work. And we've seen the platform work recently where a large Irish supermarket was looking for ice cream suppliers. And within 1 hour, we had 3 ice cream suppliers from across Europe. The following day, they had 7. And the following week, they had 11 options to choose from. So that's where the dynamic of the right suppliers being on the platform for the right categories. And at the start, that's challenging because you don't have all the members on the platform. That's us running around in the office getting the suppliers on board. But that's getting easier. And we've had some great success in recent weeks.
I know that you've said that you're at it a year, but you must spend 25 hours a day doing this.
And 8 days a week, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It is.
There's an awful lot of work in it.
There's a lot. Like I said earlier, we have a great team. We have some great people in the background and have good sourcing experience, good marketing experience. Technology is very strong. So it's working well, and it is a great future ahead.
Is there anybody in the space challenging you? Anybody else around the world doing something similar?
There's a few doing something similar, and particularly in different sectors as well. Our focus is European food and beverage sector at the moment. There's one other French company in the space, but other than that, there isn't, no.
And I presume if it works for food, it can work for lots more things.
True. Just the same challenges exist in different sectors, and we'll be looking at other fragmented industries. We'll be looking where there's other global supply chains and where there's supply chain issues. And
one of the places that you want to go and go big, which won't need a translation, is the US of A.
Yes, in recent weeks we've had a lot of interest from the States and not American companies looking for European produce.
How are they finding you?
It's a good question because it's purely online. We haven't visited. There's no sales office in the States. It's through social media. It's through word of mouth.
What do you use?
LinkedIn and Twitter would be our strongest, and I suppose from a business point of view, we feel that there's merit in that. We're conscious of a lot of food companies around our Instagram and Pinterest as well. So from a marketing point of view, we'll consider it in the future.
And we love LinkedIn very much on this podcast, but how do you use it? Are you advertising on it, or do you chase people per sector? Or because again, I know because I do it, it is very time consuming. Absolutely time consuming. There is some help, there's tools out there that can automate some of the basic steps on LinkedIn. You might tell me about them later. Sure, we have a list of them. So that helps. There's also paid advertising, there's content creation, and it's just a regular engagement, and there's some good networks on LinkedIn as well, which helps from a food point of view. And I mentioned going to the States because that will also cost you some money. You're looking for money. Always looking for money as an Irish tech startup, yes. We've funded the business ourselves today. We have some good angels, and we've recently got HPSU support from EI as initial pre-seed round, so that's now closed. However, we will be looking at our seed round in the next 6 to 12 months, and we'll be starting work on that very soon. So absolutely, the doors will be open and conversations will be starting, are ongoing. And round figures, what kind of money would you need? It's to be 2 to 3 million. Would be that's a chunk, yeah, okay. Yeah. And what would that do for you? It would allow us to automate more, actually, in terms of what we spoke about already in more due diligence. It would improve the sales and marketing. So Kwayga is a new brand, and Kwayga is becoming known locally, but we needed that to happen internationally. And in terms of automation, what can you buy with 2 or 3 million to automate? Is it software, or what do you bigger laptops? Bigger laptops. It's further. I suppose we are using some third-party tools, even the translation as an example on the platform at the moment. That's provided by a third party. There are some limitations in that, and you lose a bit of control. So in time, you like to build a whole lot and have everything in house. That's probably one of the big things in terms of what we will be doing in future. Sales and marketing is the big focus as well. We need to get out there and do a lot more promotion online, get in front of the right buyers. We need to localize the external platform. So at the moment, the translation happens internally and multilingually, but as viewers from different countries know that aren't English natives may struggle with the sign-up process as an example of giving us information. So we need to localize that too. So that's some of the money. And so therefore, where are the markets that you would most like to tackle immediately?
We've 6 identified in Europe that from a food point of view that are very important to us, and they would be France, Germany, Spain, Holland, Poland and Italy.
Southern Italy, you seem to like that a lot.
Yes.
You'd have to go on a visit there, wouldn't you?
I'd have to do supplier visits. What else would you do during the summer? Drive around tasting Italian food, breads and ice creams and wines would be great. Ideally, yes. But there's a huge demand for Italian produce. Every supermarket we've spoken to are looking for Italian suppliers at the moment. The products are clean. There's less genetically modified ingredients, and the Italians are obviously very proud of their origins as well. So there's a lot of focus in that area.
And another area of focus for you, particularly, has been and probably will be Brexit. It's scalded your heart.
It has rolled on, all right. There's been we've had a long road and journey with Brexit.
Do you know that started in 2016?
Yeah, I was thinking that.
The last time I looked at the calendar, it's 2022.
Who would have thought?
Oh.
Who would have thought?
So tell me, what did Brexit do or not do maybe for you?
It was probably transformational over the last 5 years in particular in terms of the work we did, the projects that we engaged with, the focus on the food sector in particular, whereas before we wouldn't have had a strong food focus. But in terms of the potential disruption, the understanding of supply chain risks, the volatility, gladly a lot of the work we did do with a lot of our Brexit clients 3 or 4 years ago prepared them very well for COVID, which obviously we didn't see. We had no crystal ball on that one. But in terms of showing up your supply chain risks and having alternative suppliers, doing the due diligence and suppliers, that all work helped. And more recently as well, that has come to fore with the Ukraine crisis too.
And did you see many people switching suppliers away from Britain and into mainland Europe or somewhere like that?
It's ongoing. Unfortunately, yeah. It's ongoing, even though Brexit is now live for 18 months. The GB still hasn't implemented Brexit fully. There still isn't full checks and controls. There has been some changes, and some UK companies have reacted too. So they have now an alternative EU option. That was quite wise. What happens next? God only knows that the political landscape in the UK is changing.
I presume you're going to build yourselves a lovely big company and then sell it.
We debate about it. That seems the modus operandi of a lot of Irish companies, but there's some great role models of Irish companies that are still Irish owned, and that's an option too. We'll consider that in the future.
What would you sell for? 10, 20 million? I know what you want to do. You told me you want to go down to Kinsale and you want to buy yourself a house there and look out on the ocean.
And go for a swim in the morning and play golf in the afternoon. I'm not sure if I have the patience for that, but...
So what will you do what's the plan? 3 years, 5 years? What will you be doing in 5 years' time?
Hopefully still growing the business. I believe there's a lot to be done. And like you said, there's multiple sectors, there's multiple markets. There's a strong future ahead. There's no shortage of supply chain issues. And I think we'll be expanding and growing in 5 years' time too.
So if somebody wants to give you money, where will they find you and how are you going to raise the money?
Well, in terms of contacting, we're on LinkedIn or contact us through the platform.
Are you going to use one of the fundraising platforms to get your cash, or are you just going to put it at the begging bowl? Or
we'll knock on doors. I suppose thankfully we've had good interest already. We've had a number of people that contact us and others that are waiting till we get to the next stage and improve the model a bit more. So there's no shortage of contacts out there. I do think there will be a challenge fundraising over the next couple of years. You look at the economy and people with money are going to look at it a bit more astutely. We know that. It's going to take a bit longer than expected. But
there's still plenty of money around.
There is plenty of money in the world. There's no shortage, and the money isn't going into property, and it's going to go somewhere else. Yeah.
Final question. You know what I'm going to ask you? Who would you hire in a heartbeat?
It's a great question, and I've thought about it. There's a researcher called Rachel Botsman who has done a lot of work on the sharing economy, and in terms of architecting trust online and online systems. So she would have been an early advisor to the likes of Airbnb and Uber. So Rachel is definitely someone we'd hire as a chief trust officer, as we're constantly trying to break down trust, introducing Kwayga to new members, introducing each other, and there's a lot that technology can do there.
Rachel, you are hired. Where does Rachel live, do you know?
Between Australia and UK.
Okay.
Not too far.
So that'd be like somewhere near South Africa. Mike McGrath, co-founder of Kwayga. You better give your fellow founders a shout out, otherwise they won't let you back into Cork.
No, definitely not. Martin Fitzgerald is the second co-founder. It's just the two of us.
There you go. So Martin, Well done, both of you, and we will follow you. You are now officially Team GBS. We will follow you. Please come back when you're fundraising and we'll give you another shout out. Mike McGrath, co-founder, Kwayga, thank you so much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Connell, thank you very much. It was great to be here.
Thinking of travel? If so, make sure to make De Facto, the world's best shaving oil, your choice of travel companion. A 25 millilitre bottle of De Facto means no hassle at airports, no bulky cans to carry, and the guarantee of the world's best shave. DeFactoShave.com.
Everyday accounting can be a bit of a drama for SMEs. However, BigRedCloud.com takes the drama away with its simple and easy to use cloud-based accounting and payroll software designed for SME owners. Raise and send invoices, manage VAT reports and obligations, run management reports, link directly to Irish banks, automatically import purchase invoices, and so much more. All with 5-star customer support. BigRedCloud.com, 100% Irish owned and a proud member of Team GBS.
All That Great Business Show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
That Great Business Show.
When my next guest started her Louth-based company EasyDry in 2005, she had but one single product sold in one single country. She sold a compostable fibre-based towel to replace your standard cotton towels. EasyDry claims to be more hygienic as it's disposable and better for the environment as there's no laundry involved, so saving water and electricity. 17 years later, the company now has a full product range including hair, beauty, gym, healthcare and hospitality products, selling in 25 countries. And I would be here all day if I read out all of the awards that both Boss and Business have won. Suffice to say, in America, EasyDry would be referred to as the winningest company. And I'm delighted to say that the winningest founder, Anne Butterley, joins me now on That Great Business Show. Welcome, Anne Butterley.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
You hadn't heard the word winningest until I said it to you.
No, I don't even know how to begin to spell it, so I'll leave that to you.
I made sure that it does exist. Google actually threw it up, all right, yeah, because I'd heard it before and it's so awful, it's so brilliant. So you are a winningest boss, but my God, I have been reading about you. You work and you have worked.
I have. It's been a long 17 years, so but I think, hard work and dedication gets you places, so I think that's
why?
Key trait.
Where did you get the drive and what is it about EasyDry that you are so motivated by it?
I think I've always had drive. I think that's a family value. So my parents would have always encouraged us to work very hard and do your best. And if you do your best, then at least you can't give any more. So the hard work trait would have been a family trait. The determination, I think, comes from myself. I think my dad said I was very, very determined from a young age. So I think when I discovered the idea for EasyDry, my dad was an entrepreneur. He set up his own business, stonemason, and my mum was a teacher. So when I always wanted to own my own business and I was encouraged, but my mum always wanted us to have an education first, so then we had choices. So it was actually go out and educate yourself and then at least, get education even in the working environment, because it's to learn from others as well. Because if you're just learning from, your own group, you're not necessarily opening yourself up to other opportunities or other learnings. So I suppose that's where when I got the idea for EasyDry after working in industry for 8 years, I wanted to follow it. It was kind of, I did my degree and I did my thesis on female entrepreneurship. So I think it was always in the back of my mind that that's where I wanted to end up, working for myself, but I never knew what I wanted to do.
I'm going to break your heart now by describing EasyDry to people. It's like taking a newspaper and trying yourself with it, but it works.
Yes, well, the whole, I suppose the benefit is it's in the technology. So it is we've made, with water weave technology, we've made a really, really strong absorbent material. So it's 3 times more absorbent than cotton, but it is actually really thin. So it's kind of like your Intel processor, the concept that you could make something very, very thin, but actually super absorbent. So initially it does actually, people think this is never going to work. And then when they use it, they realise how absorbent it is.
And I met you many years ago when I was on radio. And as I mentioned, you had the single product, single country. And I think the single country is called Ireland.
Yes.
How have you managed to get into so many different sectors, different countries, and develop new products?
I think, once I developed the first product, I had launched it in Ireland, and it was in the hairdressing sector. And initially I hadn't envisaged it in the hairdressing sector. It was actually, I developed a consumer product. So a consumer product for people or women, people that were colouring their hair at home, and they were using cotton towels and destroying their towels and everything like that. So basically I said there has to be a better way. And initially it was my marketing background. I just tried to look and see, was there a product that initially I could buy, to give to my friends and everything else where we were colouring our hair at home. And there wasn't anything on the market. So then I actually started looking at this whole side of it. Like I said previously, it took me 2 years to develop the product, and that was going back and forth and making sure that the material was absorbent, it wouldn't drip, it was 100% compostable. So that actually took a long time to develop. But when I launched it in Ireland, initially I was looking at hotels, I was looking at golf clubs, swimming pools, anywhere that you needed a constant supply of clean, fresh towels. That was my market. But with talking with hairdressers, towels seemed to be the bane of their life. On a busy Saturday, they were trying to get the towels because they had so many clients coming in at Christmas party season. And we could replace the cotton towel completely there and give a full solution for the hairdressing sector. So that's where I initially got into the hairdressing sector. And I think probably some of it also goes back to my aunt and my cousin used to have a hair salon, and they had 14 stylists, and I stayed with them for 2 to 3 weeks, and I worked in the salon, and my job was to make tea and wash and dry towels. And, so I think in the back of my mind, there might have been a solution, or there has to be a better way than doing this every day. But once I launched into the hairdressing section, a lot of different industries and different people come into the salon. So when the towel was used on them, you had people that were actually in golf clubs or in the gym sector or in restaurants and actually saying, this would be great if we had this in the golf club, or this would be great if this was in hotels. So I suppose that's where the initial break into other sectors came from, because actually being used in people in a hair salon, it got exposure. So from that, we launched from the Irish market into the UK salon market. And again, that was because London, with Fashion Week, it leads Ireland, and the UK would lead in the hairdressing industry. So we would have, so I wanted to get into the UK, because if we got into the UK from the hairdressing salon side of it, and we have top hairdressers here as well, but it's actually just that if for the rest of Europe, they would be looking towards what the trends were during Fashion Week and everything like that. So there, once it was in London, then you had hairdressers are global. So it's a huge market, but they network a lot, especially like you would have, they collaborate, they would work. So you'd have global ambassadors that would be from Ireland, the UK, Germany, USA, Australia, all working together for a lot of the colour houses. So when we were being used at backstage by L'Oreal, Aveda, Wella, Matrix, they would have seen our product as well. And because they're they're interested in new products and new developments, they wanted to be the first to use it in their region. So I suppose that's how we scaled initially into some of the markets. And then once we were in a market, then basically that was where the determination took over.
And talk to me about that, because how do you crack further and wider and deeper?
I suppose the key thing for me, firstly would be market research is something that I like. So I like data, and I like working off,
And where do you dig that data out of?
Well, at the moment, it would be, first of all, talking to people. So if you're going into an industry sector, I normally I'm not a hairdresser, so I would talk to hairdressers and make sure that my assumptions of what the problem I see is actually a problem, because sometimes you can be solving a problem that's not actually a problem or an issue. So first of all, I would talk, the primary source, I'd go and talk to a hotelier, a restaurant, a golf owner, a hairdresser. And then from that, I would do an awful lot, like Enterprise Ireland has a really great resource centre. So if you want statistics on how many salons or, whatever sector you're going into, you can go to the resource centre with your questions and they will direct you to the databases and the reports that are available. So that's a great resource as a first step on looking at an international market. And then from that, I would do research on, like, let's say for EasyDry, we're competing with laundry. Laundry is very much determined on, minimum wage as well, and actually the culture within the region. So again, for me, it would be, looking up different cost factors. So if you're going into the States, what did it currently do? And again, analysing on the market, what's the minimum wage there? What's the electricity rates? Is water free? Is it charged for? So it's kind of putting together a market research questionnaire. And then I would take that questionnaire and look at each market we're going into and assess, 1, if there is a market there, 2, if there is a market, what the size of the market is. 3 would be the level of investment required. So, if I'm going after, let's say the UAE would have 400, salons, whereas the USA would have 200,000 salons. If I'm going to spend time in a market, then what amount of time versus the return, so it's a smaller market, would I get better traction than actually investing in a bigger market?
And of
then
those
the time,
two, and I'm assuming that there's something correct about those numbers, which is the easier one to crack?
Neither are easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But,
that is true, isn't it? Because you have been knocking on the door of the States for a while.
Yes.
And not everything has worked, because we love warts and all on That Great Business Show. Tell us about some warts.
Well, I suppose it was initially we were looking at the USA, and one piece of advice I got at the start was actually that there's 50 states in the US and they all behave very, very differently. So I would be thinking of it as the USA. And I think that was, let's say, mistake number 1, that I only got that piece of advice afterwards, So that would be... so then it is a case of, if there's 50 states, then instead of trying to go after all of it, do we go after one state or do we go after east, west,
And what did you do?
Well, initially, like I said, we went after all of it and we looked at distribution. And if somebody wants your product, sometimes they tell you they can do all of it. And when you're coming from Ireland and you have a distributor, they probably can do all of it. And then when you realise that Ireland will fit into Illinois, 10 times over, then you realise that you can't get a national distributor. Or if you can, you're dealing with somebody very, very big. So you need to make sure that you're actually, you can contribute a big amount to their turnover. Whereas actually with EasyDry at the start, we would have been, it's brand new concept, new idea. So I suppose that was one of the first things we learned was actually, not just taking the business models here that you assume, right, I'm going distributor, I'm going direct, I'm doing hybrid, now I'm going on to an e-commerce channel. It's actually sitting back and, like I said, we went with a distributor. And I suppose one of our key learnings is we signed them up. They were great. They were in the New England area. And we got a message we launched them on the 18th of March, 2013. And we were thinking, so for Irish people that are sent over to Boston on the 17th of March and not allowed to celebrate because we have to be up at 8 o'clock to, do a training session. But then by June bank holiday, we got a note in basically saying that the business had been sold. And we'd spent a year and a half
no.
Yes.
Oh, no.
And sold to one of the large companies again, which we knew that we would only be a fraction. So we hadn't gone with the large. We'd kind of done the right strategy. So I suppose the learnings there is not to have all your eggs in one basket, but also then in our mindset, we were kind of going, oh, right, well, that will take a year, 2 years before it all goes through. But in America, it works very, very fast. So the 36 people that we had trained in March, 6 were left on the team by the Tuesday.
Oh dear.
Yes.
That's a rough lesson for a lot of people. So the good news though is, did I see that you've cracked a little bit of the US market? Did I see that you're into CVS?
We're into CVS now. So
for those who don't know what that is one of the hugest, winningest pharmacy chains.
Yes, and actually this came again, I suppose a lesson I would have learned is as part of Enterprise Ireland's programme 10 years ago. They had brought over buyers from the US and we had actually gone to them and shown them our EasyDry products and everything else. And it was that we had to develop 1 or 2 things in order for it to be ready for the US market. That was the feedback at the time. And then fast forward 10 years later, that buyer had been approached by CVS that they were launching a home kit, for colour, and they wanted to put a towel into it, as in a cotton towel. And he said in the back of his head, he thought about a girl from Louth that developed a towel.
Get away. The seed was planted 10 years ago.
So it may take. So I suppose part of it is if you work hard and you basically network, don't assume all of it is falling on deaf ears. That, you know, we did actually make the changes, and when it was right, he actually reached out and said, "I don't know if you're still there." You know, so it was kind of good. I was hoping he meant in business. You know?
So tell me about that phone call. It was a phone call, was it?
It was an email.
An email. What did you
email.
do? That physically tell me. You went, what? Fantastic. What did you do? What did you say? What did you think?
Well, I suppose I was actually going, okay, 10 years. It only took 10 years. But I basically emailed them straight back and obviously said, yes, we're still here and we've actually taken your advice on board from the number of years ago, and we've developed the range of products and we'd be more than happy to discuss this with you. You know, so he was dealing as an agent for the retail sector. And then we set up a phone call and discussed, you know, next steps and what the client was looking for or what they were, you know, envisaging, and then where would we be able to, because they were looking at it again in retail, which I would know coming from the B2B side of it, that they're doing their planograms. So for, this was October, they needed something for February. Would we be able to put this into, you know, the DCs by January that year, you know? So it's a very quick turnaround.
So many questions, so little time. Have you got IP on your EasyDry?
Yes, we patented the towel a number of years ago.
Did anybody ever try to be dirty and try to copy it?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have to start fighting them?
We did, but actually what the advice was actually that the best way is to keep innovating and to keep ahead and to invest in trademarks and to invest in marketing, because they're basically saying you could spend, you know, 10, 100 grand in the courts and yes, you may win it, but you'll have lost that time in the marketplace. So
and where are you manufacturing your EasyDry?
We manufacture in Asia, and
Okay.
that was I set up a contract manufacturer. So they're developing EasyDry products. So I work with my textile engineer there, and as we come up with new ideas and new developments, and I work very closely with them to ensure that we can develop a product that's sustainable and functioning.
And you were way ahead. Like 2005, you were thinking of compostable. I mean,
yes.
If it wasn't compostable now, you wouldn't get anywhere. But you were way ahead of the pack.
I think that was because at the time the green tax had only come in, the green bag tax had only come into Ireland, and this was huge in that every time you went into the supermarket you now had to pay your 5 cents or 10 cents, I think it's 20 now. But I figured that at some stage this is going to be the norm. So,
Clever
you know.
I mean, that is good thinking.
Yeah, well, it was actually, because at the same time you had the ozone layer in Australia, even though I don't know, nobody mentions it anymore, but, you know.
I saw now, you're going to send me down a little rabbit hole. First of all, that one closed up, but I saw just the other day somebody has found another one. So
yes.
Anyway, and when you keep mentioning we, how many are we nowadays in EasyDry?
Well, there's 15 of us, but it's based between Dundalk offices, and we have 3 in Australia, and we have a team that we work with in the UK, agents, and we work with, like I said, the agent there in the USA. So in total, from Ireland and across would be 15 people. And
if you have a base in Australia, that means that you literally do work all hours.
Yes, I think it's the email. I have to get into the habit now of switching it off, because with now working with the US, they come online at 2 p.m. and they're online until 7 or 9. So you could answer your emails all evening, and then they start in Australia at, 6 or 7. So actually now I try and keep it that, between 7 and 7, because otherwise you could be emailing and it's not good.
And are you fully funded now? Do you need anything else, or what's the next big step? I know that you really have big plans for the States. The States would be a huge market for us, and I'm actually developing new products at the moment. So I know you probably can't tell me exactly, but roughly speaking, what kind of stuff are you thinking about? Looking in the retail sector, and also we have developed products for the hotel sector, so that would be a major area for us. And if these... That'd be most interesting, because I know in every hotel they say, don't destroy your ozone layer or whatever by washing your towels all the time. But if you could That'd be a massive market if you could crack that.
Yes, well, the hotels, you would have a huge amount of, a hairdressing salon will probably use 12,000 towels a year, 12,000 on average, whereas actually any typical, hotel would be washing and drying upwards of, any of the groups would be washing 5 million plus towels,
Isn't it amazing what lives in your head when you're in a business? Whether, you obviously know these things. There are no notes or anything. This is just sitting in your head about how many towels are being washed as we speak. It's
well,
a lot.
As my niece actually said, she's now 11, but when she was 4 or 5, she came up to me and she was, Auntie Anne, did you always know you wanted to sell towels? And I said, no, it wasn't actually my aspiration, but now it is.
And a good aspiration and a good business as well. Now, what I was going to ask you another question about the fundraising.
Yes.
Are you looking for funds?
We will be, with these new developments, we would be in the market for funding, but it would be the right funding because EasyDry has just certified as a B Corp. So we are looking to, bring, I suppose, smart money for companies that are having a, impact funding, or they're looking at sustainability, because I suppose that would be core for us to match somebody that obviously matches our values and knows that, one, we will be driving for profitability, but it will be with sustainability drive to it as well. So it wouldn't be just, money. Now, obviously, money's money, but at the same time, it would be the right money that somebody
Clean
backs.
Money.
Well, somebody that backs our values, because in the US, in the salon sector, or even in the UK, if they switch to EasyDry towels, you could save 2.4 billion litres of water, each and every year. In the US, that's 12 billion litres of water,
Wow.
just in the hair sector. And
Wow.
yes.
That's a lot. Now, this may be the answer to the question, who would you hire in a heartbeat?
I was actually thinking about this, and there's a number of very good, business people, but it was Leonardo de Caprio would be for the right reasons. He is an environmentalist, and he set up the Leo DiCaprio Foundation, and he is actually putting money towards companies and organisations that are actually fighting climate change and coming up with sustainability.
So what are the
products.
chances of getting the cash from him?
Well, that's what I'd be looking
Leo,
for.
as I call him.
Or else if he could just, pop into an ad and, dry his hair in a salon, it would be obviously...
That's one thing I can't help you with. Well, the baldy head, unless you have a polish that you're developing. That's a nice idea.
Yeah.
I wonder how we'll get on to him. Leo, okay.
I think we can try it.
We will try. That is really interesting. Now, you're not to leave it as long as you have before you come back, because we will get you into the States. There's a whole heap of things that we do with Connecticut that I will introduce you to and see whether we can base you in Connecticut. Anne Butterly, founder of EasyDry, thank you for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Everyday accounting can be a bit of a drama for SMEs. However, BigRedCloud.com takes the drama away with its simple and easy to use cloud-based accounting and payroll software designed for SME owners. Raise and send invoices, manage VAT reports and obligations, run management reports, link directly to Irish banks, automatically import purchase invoices, and so much more. All with 5-star customer support. BigRedCloud.com, 100% Irish owned and a proud member of Team GBS.
Viscosity. When you shave, you want the highest viscosity because it helps the blade run smoother. De facto, the world's best shaving oil, has incredible viscosity. That's why De facto leaves your face, underarms, or legs nick-free. Higher viscosity makes blades last longer. De facto is the best for your skin and your pocket. DeFactoShave.com.
All That Great Business Show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
Many of our guests on That Great Business Show have great backstories, like Julie Garland on episode 95, who flew a Spitfire airplane from Bray to Wales, or Dave Kerr of IT firm VBT, who joined us on episode 26 to tell us about how running underwater whilst carrying rocks helps him focus on his business. This episode's best backstory has got to be Eithne Sweeney, who got the idea of founding her business Wires Uncrossed when she was sailing her small yacht with her husband from New Zealand back to Ireland, as you do. Eithne Sweeney, welcome to That Great Business Show.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Conor.
And we're not alone in studio. You brought some little guests with us as well. Do introduce our other guests?
Yes, so I've brought some other members of the Wires Uncrossed team today, Conal. We have Kate, who is 7, and Joe, who is 5.
And they are going to be as quiet as mice.
That's the plan.
Oh, lovely smile. Oh, anyway, Eithne, thanks very much for coming all the way from New Zealand, because that is where you now live, even though you are originally from
Castlebar in County Mayo.
And the lovely County Mayo.
Indeed.
And while you were 120 days at sea in a small boat with one man, you didn't kill each other, but you did come up with an idea for a business.
We did. I mean, the journey was originally a dream of my husband's, who had spent a lot of time sailing when he was young, growing up in Mayo as well. And he really wanted to take a sailing adventure. He wasn't strict on from where to where. Well, from where he didn't mind or how long it was going to be, but he really wanted it to. The vision he had was that it would end sailing into his home bay in Louthburg, County Mayo.
And you did that.
And we did that in 2012, Conal.
And you came up with a business because you were not a sailor, am I right? He was a sailor, or was that it? And
yes.
we were talking different languages about pulling sheets in, and you thought it was talking about the bed, but he wasn't. And
yeah, absolutely. So Miles, my husband, was the sailor. He had a lifetime of sailing behind him. And when I jumped on board, metaphorically, to help him achieve this dream of his, I underrated how much was really needed to become a sailor. And I enjoyed the journey, enjoyed the learning and all of that. But it wasn't until we were probably a week away from land at the start of our journey that I started to appreciate just what goes into learning how all the ins and outs, the knowledge, the experience that he had gained over what was at that point 30 years of life, really.
It's a bit late to be finding this out after a week.
Well, yes. But I mean, better late than never, Conal.
And the business, Wires Uncrossed, is or does what?
Wires Uncrossed helps technical teams to connect. So we work with a lot of technical experts, people like scientists, software developers, engineers, groups that are really well known for having a deep expertise in a particular subject area.
But they cannot speak English or a language. They cannot make themselves understood. Would that be fair?
Absolutely. So they struggle. That's where they struggle. Incredible ideas, incredible understanding, deep knowledge of a particular area. But in terms of translating that into a language, I mean, most of these people will indeed speak English as their native language.
Well,
but
it's actually the words that they use. And we have a very strict rule on this podcast: never use an acronym. Yeah. And of course, the kind of people you're talking about, talk nothing but acronyms, correct?
Acronyms or just terms that are not known to the rest of us. So they will have colloquial kind of jargon that makes sense if you've also done the degree, if you've also had the experience, if you've also read the books. And, you know, it's very easy for people in that community to understand. But for the rest of us, it's gobbledygook. It may as well be a different language.
And what do you do to beat some sense into them?
Well, where I learned what to do, Conal, was back on that boat. So listening to my husband talk about sheets and port and starboard. I mean, I'm using the simple terms. There were a lot more technical terms at the time.
Shark.
Yeah. But listening to all of those and for me, many of them I did understand at some point, but it wasn't coming intuitively to my mind as to, okay, is that left or right? You know, it's like when you learn any language, it takes a number of years for you to become that fluent where you just don't think about what that word means. But in the situations we were in, we were high pressure, we were in physical discomfort, there was storms, there was gale force winds, there was a whole lot, there was a lack of confidence in terms of have we done the right thing. So we were in this really high pressured situation, and then he was speaking this other language and looking at me, the only other living person on the boat, to respond and take action accordingly. So this is the kind of situation that technical experts often find themselves in, under pressure, people that they need help from other people to be able to make something happen. And they get blank looks, or they get kind of pushback, or they get I don't know what you're talking about, and misunderstandings upon misunderstandings along the way. And nobody enjoys it. And the good stuff takes even longer to appear, and sometimes doesn't actually appear at all. So in helping and working with these technical experts, Miles and I and our team, we draw a lot on that. Thinking back, small yacht bobbing along in the ocean, where we're going, well, we had to figure it out there. And that's now what we don't want anyone else to have to travel 120 days at sea to figure out how they communicate together. But we definitely take the lessons that we learned from that trip.
Give me 1, 2, 3 great ideas of how to kick people into communicating well.
So first idea really, Conal, is understanding how you yourself communicate. So it all starts with number one, with me. And we don't learn this at school. We learn that, communication, there's a transmitter and there's a receiver, and we learn English and we learn Irish and we learn other languages. But the art of communicating, so speaking effectively, speaking properly, in a way that others understand, is one thing that we don't formally learn. The second part of the equation is how to listen. So also listening, active listening, is the kind of official name for it. And it's that nodding and aha, and stopping somebody mid-sentence to say, I've got a question I don't quite understand. So the act of speaking, the act of listening, the act of asking questions, there's 3 things for you in terms of helping people to be able to communicate.
And are they receptive? Because obviously telling people to do is one thing, but actually getting them to change their ways. When they are hugely brainy people and they are in love with their product or their service or their software, do they listen?
Absolutely, Conal. And if anything, I feel like technical experts are more receptive than a non-technical person or somebody who's more of a generalist. Main reason being is that all of their life, they have specialized in something themselves. And therefore, they really respect what it takes to become an expert in something. So when they meet me or when they meet others from Wires Uncrossed, we introduce ourselves as experts in how to communicate with others. And that resonates with the technical expert, because they say, well, I'm really good at nanotechnology, or I'm really good at artificial intelligence, or coding, or finding what we can do out of thin air to make the world run faster. And once they can see that we are experts in our field, then we have that credibility with them, and then they are able to trust in our expertise to say, right, what is it that you can do to help me?
And what is the process?
The process, often we'll end up, we work with teams, so where there's either all technical experts or a mix of technical and not so technical. Our very first step is we say we diagnose the disconnect. So we lift up, we go in, we talk to people, we have surveys or interviews, and it really is that human connection to say, what's going on? What are you hearing? What are you not hearing? What do you need to know more about? What do you already know enough about? So we get a lay of the land and share that back with the leaders of these teams who have tried many times to be able to improve communication themselves.
Who are the worst? What crowd within an organisation are the worst people? Are the marketing people terrible, or is it? Oh, they are?
No.
Yeah, she nodded. It's marketing, isn't it?
When I term it, I guess it's coming from a technical world. The more generalist the team, the harder it is to be able to bed in. Because if you get a team who believe that they are already good communicators, they are the hardest to convince of or to expose the problems that are there within that team or what's not working. We also we will suggest things or put things in place, and they'll see that as, oh, well, that's just the first draft and I'll take that and improve on it, rather than get consistency over time and then start to raise the bar. The truly technical teams, like your IT, your engineer, even finance, they're really assured in what it is that they bring to an organization. They know the gold that they have, and the reasons why the organization runs is because they do what they do so well. they don't try to do other things really well. And that's where our partnership with them is just seamless, because it's a mutual appreciation for each other.
And how do you find clients, and how long do you spend with these clients?
We have found a lot of our clients in New Zealand through our network. So my husband and I, we've both worked kind of over 10 years in New Zealand before we started Wires Uncrossed. And it was through like working in large companies, people move around, you stay in touch. Auckland, it's a bit like Dublin. Everybody stays in touch. You run into people often, you know, through personal life or professional kind of connections and things like that. A lot of our clients, they are kind of, they hear about us, they know about us. We post on LinkedIn, we keep people abreast of who we are and what we do and how we're helping teams. And then that is the way that they come back to us and ask, is that really possible? Can you actually get a technical expert to communicate more effectively? Or they'll ask, like, what kind of teams, why would a company ask you to come in and help them? Surely their HR team helps with that. Surely their corporate communications team helps with it.
And what is the answer to both those, either HR or corporate communications?
My answer to that, Connell, is that it's like we have a foot in each of those departments. So we're not fully HR and we're not fully corporate communications, but what we can understand is how people need to learn and develop and how to train, and then how information needs to flow around a specific team within an organization. It's never the responsibility of HR or corporate communications to upskill people directly in how to do communications. But what does happen is that we partner internally. We're very much aligned with the HR vision and the corporate communication vision. So we make sure that's reinforced through our work.
It's a great name, Wires Uncrossed. Who came up with that?
Me, Connell. I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud.
I love it. I must say, I love it.
We had a number of options. And for me, the important thing for me in naming our company, and I had experience with this at naming projects and other kind of teams and things like that in the past, was to focus on the outcome rather than the process. So for me, it was important that our name described what our clients get after working with us, rather than the process they experience while we're going through it.
Any big name clients that you can tell me about?
Sure. We work with Fonterra. It's one of New Zealand's largest dairy companies.
We know them, or I know them, yeah.
And we work with an organisation called Kiwi Rail. That's our equivalent to Éireann Road Éireann in New Zealand, and also Auckland Transport. And another food company called Ansco Foods. They're beef and lamb processing company.
I'm not hearing any Irish companies. Can you get any business over here, or would you do business over here?
Well, we're 3.5 years old, Connell. So we've been focusing on our backyard in New Zealand since 2019, with the 2 years of COVID and everything that brought as well. But absolutely, definitely interested to help Irish organisations. We're both from Ireland. We come back on a regular basis. And this is where, part of our hearts will always be in Ireland. But yeah, we are quite in touch with the Irish Business New Zealand Association over there, and go along to their breakfasts, keep in touch with all the other Irish community in Auckland.
Now, I am looking directly into your eyes, because you're going to tell me the truth. On the 120 days, was there ever a crossword between you?
Oh, plenty, Connell. There was plenty, and even many times of silence as well, which was not the comfortable type either. Lots of experiences, more towards the start of that 120 days. And it was, a baptism of fire, which came unexpected to both of us, because we had actually been together at that point for 10 years. So we thought we knew each other pretty well, hence why we embarked on the journey. But what we realised after 3 weeks at sea and then 2 weeks in lolling about in French Polynesia before we could actually talk about the experience,
Okay.
What we realised was that we had been together 10 years, but we had done very little under pressure together.
Okay.
So each of us might have been under pressure at work, but not in the same environment.
In the same cauldron.
Correct, in the same cauldron. So that's a good one.
2 more questions. 1, what was it like to sail into Louthsburg?
words can't describe it. I've just got goosebumps when you asked me that question.
Was it that gorgeous?
Spectacular.
It's so beautiful.
It was absolutely. It was Old Head in Louthsburg. The pier was full of people.
Oh, they all knew
Flags.
you were coming.
Yes, my father-in-law had told everyone in the county that we were arriving in, and we were a bit late, and people still waited. So
That's
it was
lovely.
14th of July. Actually, isn't today the 14th of July?
Today is the 14th of July.
Yes, 10 years today, Conor.
Oh,
Would
wow.
you believe?
Serendipity.
Absolutely. So it's something I don't know if we'll ever experience something like that
You wouldn't
again.
do it again, would you?
Oh, I wouldn't say never. I never say never.
Anyway, final question. You know what I'm going to ask you?
I do.
Who would Eithne Sweeney hire in a heartbeat?
I have a few because I can.
You're allowed?
I have a few. I have some New Zealand hire in a heartbeat. There are two ladies in New Zealand who continue to do amazing work in terms of education. And it's all about educating children, in our next generation, in how to be better communicators, particularly when it comes to the STEM acronyms, science, technology.
We'll allow STEM. Actually, you're meant to say STEAM because we now throw arts into that as well.
Right.
So science, technology, what's the...
Education?
Maths. No, it can't be education.
Economics?
No. This is terrible. We've even forgotten ourselves. Anyway, I know what you're saying, but who are your heartbeat hires?
Frances Valentine is one lady who
That's
has
a lovely name.
set up, it's beautiful, set up the Mind Lab in New Zealand. And another lady is called Michelle Dickinson. She's also known as Nano Girl. And she invests a lot of her time in tours around New Zealand and books, making science really easy to understand for children and hence engaging our next generation to become interested and see it as a genuine career option. Here in New Zealand, here in Ireland...
you've got more.
I've got one at least in Ireland. There's a lady who's along the similar path. Her name is Stephanie O'Malley from Liscarney in County Mayo. She has a program called Education Desti, or it's short named Desti, which is all about helping children to be able to articulate their feelings, emotions, all of that. In many ways.
I have met with Stephanie. I know all about her.
Oh, well.
I know, but hang on. The listeners don't know her, so
Yes.
do tell more.
So she has this amazing it's a program, an online program that is, it's all about helping children to be able to express how they feel. And it's a program that Stephanie offers for teachers and parents and children. So it's a collaborative effort. So that we are, children who undertake this, they are a lot more capable of being able to communicate, from my lens, being able to communicate what's in their head, what's in their heart, and get ahead of the situations where I see, I guess, when I see wires and cross can often be at the bottom of the cliff. I imagine in a world where Stephanie's programs, where Frances's and Michelle's work is all focusing on that next generation, that you may not need a wires uncrossed in 30, 40 years' time because
But that's
they'll
good that you get another 30, 40 years out of it.
Absolutely.
Phew.
We'll be ready, but that's who I'd hire in a heartbeat.
Well, Frances, Michelle and Stephanie, you're all hired, but and you can all sit in a boat from here to New Zealand. And Eithne Sweeney, founder of Wires, or the co-founder of Wires Uncrossed. Thank you so much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Thinking of travel? If so, make sure to make De Facto, the world's best shaving oil, your choice of travel companion. A 25 millilitre bottle of De Facto means no hassle at airports, no bulky cans to carry, and the guarantee of the world's best shave. DeFactoShave.com.
Everyday accounting can be a bit of a drama for SMEs. However, BigRedCloud.com takes the drama away with its simple and easy to use cloud-based accounting and payroll software designed for SME owners. Raise and send invoices, manage VAT reports and obligations, run management reports, link directly to Irish banks, automatically import purchase invoices, and so much more. All with 5-star customer support. BigRedCloud.com, 100% Irish owned and a proud member of Team GBS.
All That Great Business Show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
That Great Business Show.
Regular listeners know that Team GBS's goal in life is to help Irish businesses get off the island and sell to the near 8 billion people who don't live in Ireland. 330 million of that 8 billion live in the United States. And for some years now, I have been involved, along with my great friend PJ Cimini, with the Ireland Connecticut Business Council. And why Connecticut? Because it's the ideal location for your business to expand your business stateside. Connecticut is the state just above New York and below Boston. This means that you have two major industrial centres close by, but your business costs can be just a third of what they might be in the centre of New York. I'm delighted to welcome a VIP from Connecticut to join Team GBS to tell us more. John Bourdeau is President and Head of Business Development at Advance CT, their version of Enterprise Ireland. John Bourdeau, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Thank you so much. I'm so delighted to be here and very excited to be in Ireland with you.
And now you are only on a flying visit, but what you are trying to do is to seduce Irish businesses to go and base in Connecticut. I'm going to give you 15 minutes to tell the world why Connecticut.
Sure. Well, it's a wonderful state. First of all, first and foremost, I think that when you look at what Ireland is and what Connecticut is, there is a wonderful connection. My thesis is that Irish companies entering the U.S. market are going to succeed by starting in Connecticut. Now, why? Well, first and foremost, when you come to Connecticut, I think you'll find that it is a comfortable place to be. You will see that it is a place of friendly people, which may sound familiar to you. It certainly is from my experience in Ireland.
They are very friendly. I suppose it's a little bit chocolate box, the kind of America we might have seen on TV back 10, 20, 30 years ago. Little white picket fences and all that kind of stuff. It's beautiful.
It's
absolutely
beautiful. It is a beautiful spot. And do not get confused by the fact that those white picket fences behind them are some of the best entrepreneurs that you've ever met in your life. And those are going to be your partners when you come to Connecticut. So just hitting the ground and leaving the airport and finding this beautiful rolling green hills and these wonderful cities and these wonderful educational institutions is just the start. As you said in your introduction, if you are landing your business in the U.S., I say to my team all the time, let's remember this is the biggest business decision that this person has ever made, and they are staking their career on it. So let's treat it like that. And that's what we do in Connecticut. We understand it is a massive decision to make to land in the States. So what are we trying to do? Ultimately, at Advance CT and in Connecticut, we're trying to de-risk that choice. And how do we do that? Well, first and foremost, we're not going to burn through all of your money. You have worked really, really hard to raise that capital. You've had a great idea. You've raised the seed money. Maybe you've raised the A round. God willing, you've raised the B round and you're on your way. And you land in Connecticut. And the first thing that we're going to do is not take all that money on rent and sandwiches and taxi cabs and things like that because the cost of living is reasonable.
It is much cheaper than New York or Boston, correct?
Exactly. Yes. And we have the data to prove it. You can look at New York City and Boston rents compared to square footage in Hartford, Connecticut, which is right in the center of the state, New Haven, which is on the coast, which is the home of Yale University, Stamford, which is just right outside New York City. Some people call it the sixth borough of New York. And you will see that even in Stamford, adjacent to New York, your rents are 25, 30% lower than what you would find just a few miles down the road, basically. So your cost of living for your employees and for your business setup is going to be lower. So you're trying to prove to your investors that you not only have a great idea, but it's going to scale in one of the biggest and most complex markets which is the United States. So how do we de-risk that?
Well, this is my question. Conal O'Moran wants to go in and set up in Connecticut. The process. Talk me through the process.
Sure. So it is a very simple process because you need one phone number, and that is mine. Because what Advance CT does, we play a concierge level service for companies that are coming into Connecticut from Ireland or from anywhere, but we especially like Irish companies because we feel like we're akin to one another. You need my phone number. You can easily set up to do business on the web. You can be licensed to do business in Connecticut on the website. You can come into Connecticut. It's really that simple. We will help you with a soft landing. What does that mean? Well, do you need space? Do you need legal representation? Do you need accounting representation? Do you need help finding workforce? Do you need data? How can we help? Every business has a series of things that we know that they need, and every business has something unique. And so we are not trying to do a one-size-fits-all, but we're trying to think very carefully about what does each company need? How do we listen to you? Because you've got the great idea. We're going to help you execute it. So when you land and we talk you through it and we work with you, we're going to recommend the right people. One of the things that I note about Connecticut that I think is very special, and I think it's very much similar to Ireland, which is in Connecticut, you're never more than one step away from the person that's going to help you solve your problem. Not 2 steps, not 10 steps. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. In Georgia, you're 7 steps away from the person who's sitting outside the door of the person that's going to solve your problem, and you can't even get that person's phone number. In Connecticut, you have a problem, we can put you in touch with the person that's going to solve it for you.
There is also a terrific history of industry in Connecticut. Just some of the brand names. Pfizer is HQ'd in Connecticut. We have a big operation of Pfizer here. Stanley Black & Decker. There isn't probably a listener who hasn't touched or been touched by a Black & Decker. Otis, they bring us up and down in our lives. Mm-hmm. They have, what else have we got? Subway, moving on. And as you mentioned, Yale University earlier as well. There is an awful lot of businesses that we know already. And then there are the Irish businesses that have gone over there. Mm-hmm. And I think that you guys have worked with some of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the one that's sort of most recent is Neuritas. And Neuritas will be putting its North American HQ in Connecticut. Why? They looked at Boston, which I like to say, Boston is lovely. I like Boston a lot. It's an hour and a half from my front door. In Hartford, Connecticut, Times Square is also an hour and a half from my front door, so I can get to both of them. Why did they choose Connecticut? They chose it because of the cost, they chose it because of the talent, and they chose it because of the quality of life. And last, and probably most importantly, they chose it because they knew as a smaller company coming into the ecosystem that they would be able to enter into the life sciences ecosystem and be introduced to and build relationships with the people they need. In a place like Boston or San Francisco, where there are other great life sciences hubs and they're doing great work there, it is harder to break in. And if you are a small company, you're a small fish. And sometimes small fish get eaten.
What sectors would you most like to see ringing you up? Because we are going to give out your phone number. I'll stick it up onto the podcast pages, and so they will have direct access to you.
Absolutely. I answer my phone too. So if I'm not in a meeting with somebody else, I might add, I don't answer it while I'm talking. You will not have to worry about me picking up the phone while I'm talking to you. Our sectors, we focus in several different sectors. One, not surprisingly, is technology. But we have an emphasis on different types of technology that we'd like to see. We do a lot of insurtech. Connecticut, Hartford, Connecticut in particular, is the insurance capital of the world. The major insurance companies in the world are headquartered in Hartford. We focus a lot as well on blockchain technology. Crypto has a component of that, and that is one component of blockchain technology. But we have a firm belief that Web3 blockchain technology is going to play a major role in the expansion of technology coming forward. And there are lots of different companies that are not in the crypto space that are in the blockchain space. We're very, very interested in all of those across the board. We also, in technology, in Yale University and in Connecticut, have the Quantum Institute, so quantum computing, which is the next generation of computational power, and is absolutely amazing. If you don't know anything about it, please Google it. I don't think I can explain it to you.
They can listen to Equal One, which we had on.
Oh, yeah.
And they are doing extraordinary things. Laptops, which are quantum computers. It will throw your head. But going back to something more basic than your blockchain and your quantum computing, I also know from my times, plural, that I have been out to Connecticut, is that it's the center of the biggest, submarine base in the U.S., if not the world, is it?
Well, I don't know because I've not looked at different submarine bases, say, in Russia. But what I will say is that in Connecticut, we make the best submarines in the world and the best helicopters and the best jet engines. So advanced manufacturing is a big sector for us.
And you're now moving into wind.
Absolutely.
Offshore, onshore.
Yes, offshore, mostly offshore wind, because there's a great analog to the aerospace industry. So we have a lot of the talent in place. And in Connecticut, we've just invested in something we call the State Pier. And this is the largest offshore wind assembly area on the East Coast, south of Nova Scotia and north of Virginia. It is an unobstructed deep water port that wind companies are going to be able to assemble their turbines and get them out into the ocean in a way that is efficient and cost effective.
Any problems with visas?
So right now, it's a great question. And so the what we know from the State Department and from the embassies is there is a little bit of a backlog. But in terms of what the immigration sort of status and viewpoint of the United States is right now, it's not an issue. Timing can be an issue. And so I encourage those who are thinking about coming on a work visa to be thoughtful about the timing of that.
How long of a backlog is there, do you know?
It can be weeks and months at this point. It's not outrageous, and it's about clearing a backlog that is a post-COVID spike.
So that will clear. What else will you use to attract these lovely Irish companies to Connecticut?
Well, there are a couple of things that I wanted to highlight. Number one is that you're going to see a lot of me here in Ireland. I'm going to be coming here every several months to talk to companies and to talk to founders and to talk to companies that may have an interest of coming to the States and those who serve and help them. So that's number one, is that I'd like to meet you. And
most high-growth companies see the States as either the UK or the US as their first stepping stone.
Right. And I think that we can make a strong case that Connecticut, with its lower costs and its great quality of life, wonderful workforce, as a great soft landing for your entry into the US marketplace. So that's number one. Number two is that as we bring these companies in, we are going to help provide you with the network that you need to succeed. And I've lived in New York City, I've lived in Chicago, I've lived in Atlanta. And if you want to break into those networks, it can be done if you have a lot of time, energy, effort, and a little bit of luck. In Connecticut, we're all connected to one another. And one of the things I love about Connecticut is the ethos of the place is one that people really want to help you, and people really want to see companies succeed there. So that's number two. Number three is that our current administration, led by Governor Ned Lamont, Ned is a former CEO. And the governor is a businessman through and through. He founded his own company. He grew it to hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars and sold it. His wife is a venture capitalist. He recruited to run our commerce department the former head of global real estate at Goldman Sachs. This is a serious group of businessmen and women who understand what it takes to be competitive. They are setting the tone for what it means to be competitive in the international community around recruiting companies. And we want very much to find the most innovative companies out there.
Is it fair to say that once upon a time that Connecticut was way ahead in terms of, particularly in manufacturing, then it lost its way, and it has people like you and Governor Lamont and Annie Lamont and these people trying to really, really regenerate the state?
What I like to say is that innovation is Connecticut's birthright, and it is our job to reclaim it.
It is also very, very close to Ireland. I was looking at the map and I couldn't find a point much closer. I think there might be 25 or 30 miles extra, but it's about the closest spot to Ireland.
It is very close.
Okay. So final two questions. You better shout out your phone number, because I will definitely put it up on the website as well.
I'm happy to do that. And this is my mobile. This is in my pocket all day long. So bring it on. I'm looking forward to it. You can phone, text me, or WhatsApp me, +1 860-248 9880.
And he is giving this, and because he is real, because Connecticuters, I don't know what, it's called the nutmeg state. Did you ever find out why it's called the nutmeg state?
It goes way back to issues around trade in the 1600s, is my understanding. But sometimes we're called nutmeggers. I'm not so sure about that. That might need a rebrand.
Okay.
But I like it nonetheless. If that's the worst thing I can say about Connecticut, that's so be it.
Final question, unless there's anything else that you need definitely to get out. Your heart and a heartbeat.
Well, so I've been thinking a lot about this.
Good.
And so where I've come down is I'd like to say something about two really incredible, recently retired Connecticut CEOs. My hires, I know this is not supposed to be hire, but I'll say hires in a heartbeat, are Indra Nooyi, who is the former chairwoman and CEO of PepsiCo. And why would I hire Indra? Indra is a unbelievably strategic and thoughtful person who has made it now in her retirement her mission to make Connecticut the most family-friendly place to do business, because she understands the relationship between a good home life and a good family life and productivity. And I think that sort of strategic thinking is absolutely amazing. And in her leadership style and the way that she goes out and evangelizes for this is inspiring to me. A couple of weeks ago, Jim Lurie, who is the CEO of Stanley Black & Decker, Jim retired. And one of the reasons why I think Jim is amazing and why I would put him on any team, anywhere, at any time, I remember him standing up when he was launching an accelerator on additive manufacturing, 3D printing in Hartford. And he stood up and said, "Why is Stanley Black & Decker doing this?" And he said, "Because I do not want to walk into a grocery store and see someone 3D print a hammer. I want to disrupt my own industry, and I want to do it from the inside out, and we're going to do it with the most innovative people." And Jim, just like Indra, both Connecticut residents, and Jim helped to grow some really, really interesting companies through that accelerator, invested in them, and planted them right in Connecticut, and they're thriving.
Well, I will make sure to introduce you to WASP, W-A-Z, or Z as you might say, W-A-Z-P, based in Kerry. They really are pioneering in 3D printing, and they're now working with IKEA, and they are printing stuff so you no longer will go into the store because they'll just ship it straight out. So Jim and WASP should get together.
They definitely should. And I would also note that Cult Dynamics was one of the Stanley Black & Decker accelerator companies as well.
And I met them over there, and they are based in Wicklow, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And they have really interesting technology. It's Calt, C-A-L-T, if I remember, Cult Dynamics, isn't that right?
Yes.
Yeah, some great businesses going over there. John, people are going to phone you. Be nice to them. They're Team GBS. Your Team GBS now. We're family.
You can count on it. I will pick up the phone and I'll be as friendly as I can be, which is pretty darn friendly.
That is John Bordeaux, President and Head of Business Development at Advanced CT. Thank you so much for joining us on That Great Business Show. And that's it from That Great Business Show, episode 96. Share it with your pals. Drop the link into your WhatsApp and send it to anyone you know in business. Then they can listen in the car, walking the dog, or watching the kids play. They'll love you for it, and that'll give you a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling. You're welcome. Why don't you expose yourselves? Yes, join great companies like Big Red Cloud, Microfinance Ireland, Eithne, Virgin Media, Údarás na Gaeltachta, who all advertise with us. Your business can do too. We work with our great friends here at the Dublin South Podcast Studios, including sound engineer Brian Begley and studio manager Peter Royce, who give us the world's finest sound. If you want to record a podcast, do use the team here at Dublin South Podcast Studios. They are great, I say so. If you'd like the Media Group to produce a podcast for you, as we do for the Love Irish Food Group and others, then I am your bochel. Talk to me, Conal O'Moran. Find me anytime on LinkedIn. All of our great business insights and tips are brought to you, as always, thanks to our sponsor, De Facto Shaving Oil, the world's best all-natural shaving oil. They back us, please back them. DeFactoShave.com will get you all of your shaving requirements. And don't forget to buy Business Plus magazine, where we now have a regular column all about the podcast. From me, Conal O'Moran,